Hi everyone, I'm Jennifer from the SG Innovate Talent Networking team, and welcome to our second workshop for today. At SG Innovate, we develop talent capabilities for the deep tech sector, and today's second workshop is titled Introduction to Cybersecurity, What's with the Hype? Through this introductory workshop, you'll learn about the fundamentals of cybersecurity, such as defending against impending security threats and vulnerabilities. You will also find out more about the different career paths you can take into the world of cybersecurity. Now, I would like to introduce our expert for this workshop, Mr. Ivan Lee. Ivan is the co-founder of Tegasus International and the Deputy Director of Cybersecurity Technologies at the iTrust Center for Research in Cybersecurity. Ivan also works with various strategic partners, such as the NATO Cooperative Cyber Defense Center of Excellence, the US Department of Homeland Security, and local government agencies. You might find that Ivan looks familiar, and that's because he's also a regular cybersecurity expert on Channel News Asia. If you have any questions throughout the workshop for Ivan, please feel free to type in the Q&A tab, and we'll have a Q&A section at the end of the workshop. Now, without further ado, let's welcome Ivan.
Okay, all right, thank you, Jennifer. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ivan. So before I start, I would like to inform everyone that if you happen to have any questions or query that you would like to ask me, please feel free to put in the chat. So there'll be times where there are a lot of questions and I will not be able to handle all at one shot, but please feel free to repost your questions again in the event that I missed it. Okay, so let's start. Morning, everyone. So let's start about introduction to cybersecurity. So if you're looking into cybersecurity, what's a hype? So if you're looking into cyber, you first of all must know the dynamics. You must also know the ecosystems. All right. So let me get my slide going. Okay, so before I start, so these are some brief informations about my work that I've done and some of the experience that I have. So let's start. So before I start, there are things that you should take note of. So in the materials of these presentations, there'll be software or tools that are being presented. So I would like to inform you that they are the sole properties of their respective trademark registered or copyright owners. Neither Tegasus or SG Innovate owns any of this. So there'll be references that made to a specific commercial product, processes or service by trademark, manufacturer, or otherwise, but it doesn't mean or constitute or imply any endorsement or recommendation or favoring from Tegasus, our relevant parties, and even SG Innovates. The attacks or exploit that is shown in the demonstration is not specific to any vendor and technology. In the event that you would like to use it in your production environment, please evaluate them carefully. All right, interesting information that you should know about ecosystems. So before you jump into cyber, there are dynamics, there are ecosystems that you should be familiar with. So before you get into that, let me bring you some of the important information that you should be aware in 2020, and I call them hi-fi informations. So worldwide spending on cybersecurity is going to reach 13.7 billion in 2022. So what does it mean? It means that it is getting higher and higher every year. 68% of the business leaders feel that their cybersecurity risks are increasing. I don't feel that there are a lot of people felt that the cybersecurity risk is decreasing, but instead it's always opposite. Data breach, I think everybody are quite familiar with data breaches. We have seen quite a lot of data breaches incidents over the years, and this happens has actually exposed 4.1 billion records in the first half of 2019. 71% of the breaches are financially motivated and 25% are motivated by espionage. 52% of the breaches features hacking, 28% involve malware, which is what is malware, which is the bad behavior of a software. 22 to 23% including phishing, means they give you a fake email for you to click. Social engineering, meaning they're exploiting human behavior to extract privileged information. So these are the important information for you to know. So why do I say that they are important? because it will form the backbones or whether you should consider cyber. And it should also be the backbone for you to consider where is cyber heading in the next following years and beyond. So look at the market size of cybersecurity. Since 2017 all the way to 2023, you can see that the market size for cybersecurity has actually increased over the years. All right, that means the demands and the needs for cybersecurity professionals is always increasing, and the budget for them to be spent by the enterprise is also increasing along the way. So everyone, let's take a look on this digital ecosystem. Look at it carefully and ask yourself, we have an digitalized ecosystem, we have smart nations, we have trying to be improve our productivities. And with all these integrations, you look into the pictures, where are we now? We have digital services, we have telecommunication network, we have autonomous entities, we have the drones, autonomous vehicle, we have more and more people setting up data centers to serve the data needs, commercial, residential entity needs, and smart watches, all the digital IoT devices that users are using more and more, and they are all highly integrated. So what do you see in the whole ecosystem? There are a lot of data integrations. There are a lot of attack vectors. There are a lot of cyber issue for us to comprehend. You can see there are technical glitches, possible technical glitches, because there's so many integrations, as well as cyber that comes along with it. So what's so great about cybersecurity? How does it get into our work and our life? Okay, first of all, we have to understand cybersecurity because of technology, and technology with human beings. So there are a few issues that it gets into our life, be it in a workspace or in our life space. There's something that we talk about that is called lens fogging. Why lens fogging? Because we actually are aided by technology to make better decisions, but technology also blur our vision and the way we make decisions. And I'm going to go deeper into that in the following slides. Second, there's this something about split personalities of artificial intelligence. Why do I say that? Because they help us, at the same time they fight with us. Third, personal and corporate privacy. We treasure privacy so much, but yet there are so many data breaches because cyber attackers are looking into data, because with data it comes with power. Fourth, the marriage of smartness and digitalizations. So now we are talking about smart and versus digital services. Let's start with what do we mean by lens fogging in cybersecurity. Issues about lens fogging. We make sound decisions with quality information and news. We read a lot. We read from the news. We read from social media platforms. We interact with people through digital means. Okay, and it helps to extend our decision-making process. Okay, but how credible are these informations? We may think that it is credible, and as a result, we make sound decisions based on this information that we have collected, or we read, or we transfer. But there is something that I would like to bring to attention about our current present life in cybersecurity. There's something about deep fake. And what exactly is deep fake, which I'm going to explain later. And also we talk about fake news. So people actually release fake news as a means to launch attack on their targets. And fake news can be used for profit, political gains, for crime, or even pranks. All right. So exactly what is deep fake? How deep fake technology has become more dangerous than nuclear weapons. People can actually make use of. It's actually a technique for human image synthesis based on artificial intelligence. They combine and superimpose existing image and video onto the original image of videos and using machine learning. So this technique is known as generative adversarial network. So technology has actually helped us to make decisions, but at the same time, it can also be used to fool or blur our visions. So let me show you a video about how deepfake technology has become terrifying and it actually affects our life, be it in the work or in our personal life. Hold on, let me show this. Sorry. I'm trying to get the video started. Please give me a while.
To help families refinance their homes, to invest in things like high-tech manufacturing, clean energy, and the infrastructure that creates good new jobs. See, I would never say these things, at least not in a public address, but someone else would. Someone like Jordan Peele.
It's sort of learning to recreate that person's face by looking at the thousands of images over and over and over.
And look at the image that both
like a lot more research than you would think would go into making a goofy video or something like that.
Truly surprising for me. Yeah, I was just really surprised.
I didn't do any after touching on that video. I was just using the technology that was available from the machine learning side.
You don't even have to know what GitHub is. You don't have to know.
So that is what we know by deepfake and how it can be used in cybersecurity. So is deepfake real or not? So if you look in actual life, there are things that happens in 2019 where there's a CEO of a UK-based energy firm thought that he was speaking on the phone with his boss, a CEO of a German parents company, who asked him to send the fund to a Hungarian supplier. And the call said the request was urgent. So what happened is the CEO of the UK company thought it is real because it sounds exactly the same as his boss. And then he actually executed the transfer of money. So deepfake actually can be used in cyber to launch attack for financial gains. So theft are now using AI deepfakes to trick companies into sending them money. So how about fake news? So people actually use fake news for one and other purposes in cybersecurity. For instance, fake news and cyber propaganda, the use and abuse of social media. We use social media a lot in our daily life, be it for work or for our personal life. But fake news is actually one of the methods that people can be used by cyber attacker for cyber campaigns. So they actually can spread the false propaganda and to influence the mind of the readers. We have example previously from Cambridge Analytica scandal. I think many people might have known. So what happens to this company is that they have extracted tons of information from Facebook and then churn out meaningful information to influence the mindset of the reader for political purposes. And also how fake news lead to cyber attack. Because why? Fake news is giving cyber criminal new baits to allure victims. So fake news, this is another case where fake news where Johnson and Corbyn endorse each other. So during the UK elections 2019, I believe you have recently seen it about these elections. So a fake social media video where Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn endorse each other for Prime Minister has been posted online. And this is actually a potential showcase of what we know as deepfake videos, all right? And this is something that they would like to show you that actually people are using artificial intelligence and impressionists to make candidates' clips appear as real as possible. So before I start this, I believe there's a question from the chat. So it was asking, do you need a computer science degree or any IT related degrees to get into cybersecurity industry? If not, what courses or certification do we need to obtain? So I will touch on the certification at the end of the slides of the presentations. But to answer you is, you do not need computer science or IT degrees. So in general, people are now looking into IT, generic IT computing degrees, or even if you are in the electrical engineering degree, and even if you are physics or mathematicians, you'll be good in programming. So with this basic discipline, for you to branch into cybersecurity is not a big challenge. All right. Okay, let me continue. So this is also a video about UK general election 2019. It's a fake video. So the purpose is to show you how impactful it can be in our life that can influence our decision in the cyber world.
Once upon a time, I called for a kinder, gentler politics. However, we, the political class here in Westminster, have failed, and the consequences have been disastrous for our society. That's why I'm taking on the toxic culture in Parliament. I'm urging all Labour members and supporters to consider people before privilege and back Boris Johnson to continue as our Prime Minister.
Hi folks, I am here with a very special message. Since that momentous day in 2016, division has coursed through our country as we argue with fantastic passion, vim and vigour about Brexit. My friends, I wish to rise above this divide and endorse my worthy opponent, the Right Honourable Jeremy Corbyn, to be Prime Minister of our United Kingdom. Only he, not I, can make Britain great again. Huzzah! Alas, why should you believe me? Much like Odysseus and his encounter with the Cyclops Polyphemus, I too am nobody. I am a fake bear. A deep fake to be precise. And as you can see, even I, the Prime Minister, can be affected by them. Yes.
So can you see that? How these are the example of real fake news that's been applicable in our life, and exactly how it can influence us if you are not being informed that it's actually a fake news. So example of real fake news attack. So what happened is that United Nations is trying to tackle infodemic of misinformation and cybercrime in COVID-19 crisis. So 31st March 2020, from selling fake corona cure online to cyber attack on hospital. So these are some of the information that has been released in the online platform, but they are actually fake. And in actual fact, the related government agency have to tackle them. Hackers post fake story on real news. So even though they are real news, they twist and change the fact and become a fake story. Okay, so in this case, it's meant to discredit NATO. So people actually use fake news and use it for cyber propaganda, allure user to follow and being influenced. Social media platform, I believe you have heard in the past 1 year or so that Twitter or even Facebook have shut down fake account that's being created by cyber propaganda attacker to influence people reading decisions, and they have shut it down to prevent all the cyber propaganda. And fake news can actually help to attract attacker to click. So with fake news, do you know that it can actually influence and try to attract people to click the link to download? For instance, promotions, you can click this to fill in your numbers and your particulars, and you actually download it. But in the event that when you click download, you actually download the malware into your system. So this is what we name by drive by download, one of the kind of cyber attacks. So fake news and cyber propagandas are actually how to influence human beings. So what are the four social elements that are being exploited? So in human beings, they actually use TGI Friday. Okay, we call it TGIF. They actually use trust, greed, ignorance, and fear in human beings to extract privileged information as a result to exploit cyber propagandas or to extract privileged information for cyber attacks or activities. So there's also another in social media, or even if the social engineering where they attack human beings, there's an attack called phishing attack where they try to phish for personal information. So let me show you an example of a real life attack, but it was carried out in a safe environment on how to extract personal information for a game.
Make some phone calls as your girlfriend.
Sure. Do you want to do a sample phishing call?
What's phishing?
Phishing is voice solicitation, and basically what you do is you use the phone to extract information or data points that can be used in a later attack.
Let's do it. Who are you going to call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider
Okay.
and see if I can get them to give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm going to spoof from your number, so it's going to look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. my husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry. I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for uses information and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30 seconds,
gmail.com?
Jessica gets my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message? Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Shh. Oh, I'm not on there either? So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account. Okay, my
Jessica uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry. So there's no password on my account right now? Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my password.
Thank you so much for your help today.
So she just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her fed after this. All right, thank you.
All right, so this is an example of phishing attack where a cyber attacker actually uses phone call to fish out personal information from you and use it for some other gains. All right, so this is another example about social engineering attack where it focuses on greed. So this is happening in eBay. So this is what happened where people has a greed to buy cheaper versions or cheaper price products, and as a result, you fall into the trap of a cyber attacker. So if you look into this website, you see they are all selling phones. And this one, 650 Apple iPhones. And if you look, it has changed from eBay to my web eBay. And they actually have done, they have bring you to their attacker's web page. And they look exactly the same and you're not aware. So you thought that you have purchased cheaper price versions of the products. But in actual fact, you has fallen into the trap of this cyber attack that actually abuse the greed elements of our human being in social engineering attack. All right, so some of the credible example of fake news attack that was Facebook was fined US $5 billion by the US FTC for its part in the data breach. DEFCON 27 hacking conference in August 2019, there was a real-time challenge to find vulnerability in the election system. I believe everybody knows about election system is very important, and yet they can find that. Weaponization of information, they actually believe this information or propaganda is set to continue and will take in different forms or paths as the benefactors explore and adopt new methods to attract human beings or to make money. So as long as there are financial gain or there's a gain by the cyber attackers, weaponizations of informations will always be used by them for benefits. So something for you to laugh at, joke of the day. Have you heard about this OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder? So in cybersecurity, we know that there are phishing emails. So do you realize that there's always people who knows that they should not click on the link, and yet they continue to move the cursor to the link and click it. So in situations where, so when people launch phishing attacks in your organizations, so all they need is to have one person to click the link, and the penetrators can get into the system or the network of your organization. So there are situations like this, or even people who are very experienced, but when you work long hours and you're very tired, sometimes you might just neglect on such a link and you might accidentally click. And so that's where human being, social element, TGIF, has been abused by cyber attacker to launch attack in your life or in your work. So we received one inquiry that is, any advice to someone looking to learn how to do penetration testing? Yes, so I'll be talking about this. What are the certificates that you should be looking at, and what are the courses, and what are the career paths that if you're looking at in penetration testing? I will cover that in the latest slides by the end of the presentations. So second point I will cover about if you need to know about cybersecurity in the dynamics, the ecosystem, there is actually split personality in artificial intelligence. So people might be asking me, Ivan, you must be kidding. Split personality is about human being. It got nothing to do with technology. But the fact is that it really happens in the cybersecurity world. So machine learning, so AI, are they your friend or your foe? So AI has brought us tremendous benefits, okay, especially to the cyber defenders. Efficient scanning, faster detection, improvement in the ability to identify anomalies. So they always like to do baseline. So machine learning do a baseline, as long as there's any spike, they will inform you, oh, anomaly has been detected, please respond. All right, so it has bring us great, tremendous benefit, all right, to enhance our detections capabilities. So advances in artificial intelligence has brought us so much benefit, okay, to the cybersecurity defenders, but it has actually become a double-edged sword. Why? Because cyber attackers also use artificial intelligence for bad deliverables or even a bad outcome. So what do I mean? So have you ever thought of this? Machine learning is misused to launch attack and the system we have made. Whether is it malware, so there are something known as machine learning or artificial intelligence based malware. So what are malware? So malware are source code that are being created for evil purposes. And in general, we call them malware. So malware has become more and more powerful, and people are using machine learning to defend against cyber attacks. So in the future battlefields, people are now making use of artificial intelligence or machine learning in this aspect. But cyber criminal has long tried to tweak the malware code so that security software no longer recognize it as a malicious source code. Okay, so what happens? There are situations where cyber attacker actually purposely release certain kind of behavior for the system in targets to learn behavior that are acceptable, hoping to fool them into accepting when they release the actual malware. So as example, AI antivirus company algorithm has been fooled into accepting malware. All right, even though they are meant to be antivirus system, but because they has been fooled into believing that the malware actually perform correctly or normally. And when they are being faced with the real malware, they actually accept them and will not recognize them as anomalies. So this is something that is happening in the ground. So find adversarial AI attack that can show that machines have more to fear from people. So there are some attack scenario that cybersecurity practitioners has been thinking that in the market, if you think about different attack scenario, there could be scenario that using AI to discredit a company or ban by poisoning a search engine, autocomplete functionalities. So instead of you keying in all your keywords in the search engines, they can actually adopt artificial intelligence or machine learning to fill in for you on your behalf. And search engine actually learns about it naturally. Another attack scenario by cybersecurity practitioners They think about performing a targeted attack against an individual using hidden voice command. Have you been receiving phone call that ask you, is this number correct? And you say yes. Have you been asked over a phone call that am I speaking to so and so, and you answer yes? So cyber attackers are trying to exploit this yes from you as a hidden voice command, so that everyone who say yes indirectly launch an attack on the targets or the victims that they are arranging by the cyber attackers. Another scenario is where they take widespread control of a digital home assistant. So we have been using more and more IoT devices in our home, whether is it in your life, at home, or at work. But all these IoT devices can be exploited if they are not being designed or programmed correctly from the scratch. This is what we know by security by design. But if they are not, you can find there are loopholes that can be exploited by cyber attackers. And as a result, they become botnet that can be exploited by cyber attacker to perform certain specific actions that is needed by the cyber attackers. Fourth, they can evade fake news detection system to alter political discourse. So they actually can use trying to evade, because of fake news attack, people are now deploying more and more detection mechanisms, including identifying fake news. But they can actually train the AI or the artificial intelligence or the machine learning to evade. So you use it to detect me and I use it to avoid you. So this is the kind of thing that happens. Hijack autonomous military drones. So another scenario that people thought of, there are drones flying around, be it for personal or for work, you can see that they actually can be hijacked. So these are kind of things that, that actually artificial intelligence can be used in this kind of specific attack scenario. So while AI and ML provide benefit for cybersecurity, it's important for organizations to realize that these two aren't a replacement for human beings. So if you're looking to AI, there is a need for human beings, because human beings need to understand the alerts, the anomalies being raised by the system. So if you're in the cybersecurity, do not be afraid, and you will see that there is always a need for your skill set in the following years to come and beyond. It's possible for machine learning security tools to be programmed incorrectly. This is what we know as false positive or true negative. So what are these? False positive, where event that is false has been declared to be real and alarm is being raised. So when you have such a situation, what must you do? Human beings must come into the pictures to investigate this alarm, to make sure that they go through the incident response. So it has been investigated and survey has been done. False positive causes threat alert fatigue. 70% of the cybersecurity professionals investigate more than 10 security alerts daily, all right? And false positive alerts rate is of 50% and higher. In actual fact, people are what we know as chasing cyber ghosts, meaning no such event, no such person, no such cyber attackers happens or exists, but you are chasing around the goose and eventually you find that it is a false alarm. And in actual fact, and this will cause fatigue. So there's also system SIEM, for example, that actually help to identify, collect all the logs. There are massive logs in the system, and they actually help to analyze the log and inform the user whether is there any false alarm. So 40% are considered false positive based on their investigation in 2019. All right. So how about true negative? So true negative is where true event, a real event, okay, has not been identified and alarm was not raised at all. So this is even more devastating, because true event, cyber attacks has happened and yet the system has not picked it up. So if you talk about artificial intelligence or machine learning, so how are we going to manage such an event or such a situation in cybersecurity? Because of this kind of aspect, cybersecurity professional is still highly in demand, because there are aspects that the system cannot handle and human beings must come into actions for all this in the cybersecurity industry. All right. For example, AI also has something called bias, AI bias, where, as an example, facial recognition has become more prevalent in current technology, okay, but it does have its negative impact. What is it? Because we cannot be sure that it's always 100% accurate. So as an example, US FBI algorithm has found to be incorrect because 14% of the time, okay, is not able to accurately identify the people, or in actual fact, they claims that it misidentified people of colors and of women. So technology do help us, we fully agree, but it does have the elements that we have to manage it as a human being by a cybersecurity professionals in the field. And if you talk about the third factors in cybersecurity, that is something of a tremendous impact to human beings, that is you and me. What is that? It's our personal and corporate privacy. Data is power. Machine learnings like data, and when you give them data, they give you very, very good information, very, very good power and financial gain. But what happens to you and me in terms of personal and corporate privacy? Because people can actually breach this privacy and takes all this sensitive data and for cyber criminals purposes. So cybersecurity risk is increasing every day, all right? Even it's not days, it'll be month, okay, 6 monthly of every year. Because we store sensitive data and personal information, be it in the local or in the cloud. And over the years, we have seen widespread of poor configurations and with increasingly sophisticated cyber criminal attacks. So whatever cyber attack that you have seen now is never able to compare to what we have seen in the past, because the sophistications has increased over the year. And this is something that's worrying. And especially when more and more open source are coming up, you can find that people can actually launch attack easier. New entry to the market, like those script kiddies, they can pick up cybersecurity attack much easier at a faster pace because of the availability of open source. So the matter of fact is whether you are individual, small business, or large multinational company, there will be a situation where you need to worry of in terms of the cybersecurity risk and your privacy because of the smart events or the smart activity that we're going through, because of the hybrid integrations of the cloud with the in-prem services, and also because of the availability of Internet of Things or disposable technology where you buy, you throw, you buy, you throw. It keep introducing into the ecosystem the kind of attack vectors or the cybersecurity threat, okay, is getting more and more complicated, and we need more and more sophisticated detections mechanism, and we need to upgrade our existing cybersecurity professional skill set to meet, okay, to meet the ever increasing cybersecurity threat and risk that we face every day. All right, so now I have a question that is, I'm working on hardware security in my PhD. I've taken an information security course in my master. Would it be a good fit for cybersecurity in industry? Yes, so if you are looking into cybersecurity in the hardware, so please bear in mind that cybersecurity not only exists in the software, it also exists in the hardware part of it. That's why people talk about cybersecurity in the hardware, the way they design the hardware, for instance, the IoT, the hardware devices, or people even look into fuzzing as one of the technique to make sure that the hardware or the firmware in the hardware actually is sophisticated enough to prevent cyber attacks. So if you're looking into hardware, cybersecurity, you are on the right track as well. The next question I was asked is, could you elaborate on the different job roles in cybersecurity industry, skills, qualification required, shift work? All right, I will cover this in my last part of my presentation. I have catered specifically that part for people who are moving into cybersecurity or people who are looking into a career job switch. So I will cover that later on. Okay, there's another question that come in. Speaking about privacy and increasing trend, our data is going online. With regard on cloud, how secure do you think we are now? Okay, to be very frank, security in cloud largely depends on a few factors. In general, we talk about control mechanism in administration, control mechanism in your technology, and control mechanism in your technical part of it. So there are three large areas for you to look into. If you're just looking into simple technology to help to prevent or to make sure that the privacy is being adhered to, it is not so easy. So you actually need a team effort, because you need to have a good policy. You need to have, I'm talking about if you're in the organization, You need to have baseline, you need to have policy, security design, methodology to be set by your organization. You also need to have what we know as SLA, service level agreement between your organization and the cloud service provider, that they talk about how to ensure what are the service level agreement that will be provided to your organization in protecting your privacy of your organization information. And sometimes we also talk about sensitive data that should not leak out of the country, as an example. And that's where they need physical security to wrap around all this privacy for the cloud services. So privacy, data breach involve financial information, can be part of like credit card numbers, your bank, the health information, trade secret. So trade secret, intelligent property. So intelligent property has been of a hype recently over the few countries, because intelligent property actually worth money, potential money, because that is where people look into in evaluating the worth of your company. That's where it helps to attract investments, all right? So these are kind of things, but yet other terms of unintentional. So this is something that you have to take note of, that is where you have unintentional information disclosure, data leakage, cloud leakage. So these are kind of things that you should look into for data breaches. So in privacy, information theft is the most expensive and fastest growing segment of cybercrime. So cybercrime is subsections of cybersecurity, where people actually look into crime that involve through cyber means. And any highly motivated attacks, okay, on all these data breaches, privacy is something that they always look at, because there are financial gain, and these gain are always very in demand. Wow, we have quite a lot of questions. So we have questions about psychology plus science research background. I'm interested in social engineering side of it. What can I do to move into this field? Okay, so if you are in psychology and science research background, and if you're looking into social engineering side of it, I believe you might have to approach CSA, Cybersecurity Agency. So they might be in the best position to advise you on the social engineering side of it, because social engineering attack is growing, is in high demand nowadays, but the growth in Singapore might not be as fast as the growth in other countries. So if you look into this aspect of it, better and more a place for recognition of social engineering, probably it'd be good. You may want to approach CSA. OSCP course, good. Okay, we'll touch about OSCP course in the last part of our presentations. That is about penetration testings. All right. How does a mid-career professional in the financial industry move into cybersecurity practice? Does CISSP, CISA, or ITU helps? All right. So these are certifications that I will talk about at the end of the presentation. I will answer all these questions. I will talk about the certification, what kind of career, what kind of advancement, or what kind of service provider to these courses will be good and beneficial for those who are into different track of the cyber elements. So a lack of focus. So if you look into privacy and if you are not managing it well, you are going to suffer, all right? Because what happened? You are going to incur economic costs, theft of intellectual property. So if you're the researchers, you can find that you have developed IP, and if been stolen, you actually suffer, because IP that help to propel the growth of your company has become a property in another organizations, right? Corporate information, that's where people use the corporate information to fool your staff into divulging sensitive information, all right? And in the event that are damaged, that are systems that are not able to protect your privacy, you need to repair. So all these are what we know as economic cost. Reputational cost is very, very important to large company, because once you have lost the trust, you actually lost your business. Your business mission has become distorted. You can find that your revenue will drop all the way, and you can find that you have a hard time bringing up, and due to social media coverage and social media platforms, you can find that news spread very easily. As a result, the trust from your consumer to your organization get affected. Regulatory costs. So in certain specific field, you might be regulated. So in specific area, for instance, we have something like GDPR in the Europe, General Data Protection Regulation, or in Singapore, we also have a PDPA, Privacy Data Protection Act. We also have a Computer Misuse Act. So in certain segment, you might find that you are being highly regulated by the regulations, by the regulatories, by the agencies. So under such a situation, if you have any breach in the privacy, you might find that you might be penalized and you may have to pay a cost for that. Okay, so these are just an example to show you when we talk about privacy, it is not just something that you and I just talk about it and we discuss. There are organizations in the cyber world that actually get affected. Okay, for example, 26 January 2019, 1 in 8 businesses are destroyed by data breaches. Okay, it is not just a statistic, but it is real. Another example, 16th of July 2019, okay, AMCA filed for bankruptcy just months after data breach. So data breach in cybersecurity is a big threat. It is not something that we discuss easily, but it is something that you need to have a data framework. Okay, so people talk about risk framework, people talk about data framework. That's where you need to understand them and apply them in your organization. So this will fall under data governance and risk, okay, in cybersecurity track if you're on the administration part of it. All right, so this is a joke of the day. We succeeded in turning around our business just in the wrong directions because reputation lost and then your revenue dropped all the way. Okay, so there are people who talk about design for privacy and security. So privacy is important and people wanted to improve customer trust. Only when with the customer trust, you can actually help to win your customer over and your revenue increase in the cybersecurity world. That's why people need to design a system, not just purely cybersecurity, but with privacy in mind. Okay, so there are association, International Association of Privacy Professionals. They actually created documents for recommendation for principle of privacy by design. So these are some of the example, real life example that happens in 2020 about our data breaches. Twitter hack, I believe Twitter hack has been quite a big news in our country as well, where high profile US personality like Barack Obama, some of the top entrepreneur, Elon Musk, okay, Bill Gates, and many more, where their information account has been breached. We also have a situation where Marriott data breach, 5.2 million hotel guests, their locking credentials, okay? All this hotel guest information was breached and was lost because of attacker able to gain locking credential of 2 employees. Can you imagine? Just 2 employees in an organization itself is sufficient for a cyber attacker to steal all the informations of your customers. MGM data dump. So that is where it's talk about MGM Resort suffer massive data breach. Okay, nearly 142 millions of data has been stolen. Okay, Zoom credential. Everybody are familiar with Zoom. So we have been using Zoom, Skype, Microsoft Teams for our online meetings, all right, during COVID-19. But what happens in recent time, 500,000 stolen Zoom password available for sale in the dark web. So what is dark web? Dark web is another facet inside our World Wide Web. It is fully encrypted and you need to use security onions, not security onion, you need to use a special web browser to gain access. And once you gain access, everything is fully encrypted. That's where actually cyber attackers, terrorists sell information, privileged information in that platforms. So in the dark web, that's where this Zoom credential has been on sale. So this is another one where I talk about healthcare. In the healthcare sectors, they actually launched ransomware attack. So what is ransomware? So ransomware is where it's similar to a class inside malware category where you run on this ransomware, and what happened? They lock down all your data in your laptop, in your system, and they demand you to use Bitcoin to redeem if you would like to regain your original data, because everything has been encrypted by the ransomware by a key. Only when you have paid the Bitcoin, they will release the key to you for you to unlock. And what happened? 365,000 patients was affected in a sophisticated cyber attack. So let me show you a video clip where we talk about privacy, we talk about protection, talk about protecting your password, but yet no matter how much we have actually put in place to protect you and me and organization, privacy is still an area where cybersecurity professionals must look into in defending our whole ecosystem. Let's take a look into this video on how people can actually extract password and the privacy is being breached.
You know, we've been hearing a lot about cybersecurity lately, largely because of what happened to Sony. Companies and individuals are more concerned about the safety and privacy of their information than ever. President Obama has unveiled a number of new proposals this week to crack down on hackers, and he plans to address this in the State of the Union speech on Tuesday. And it's great that the government is working on this, but the truth of the matter is we need to do a better job of protecting ourselves. You know, the most popular password in the United States is password 123. And as long as that's the case, we're vulnerable. So today we sent a camera out on Hollywood Boulevard to help people by asking them to tell us their password. And this is how that went.
We're talking about cybersecurity today and how safe people's passwords are. What is one of your online passwords currently?
It is my dog's name and the year I graduated from high school.
Oh, what kind of dog do you have?
I have a Chihuahua Papillon.
And what's its name?
Jameson.
Jameson. And where'd you go to school?
I went to school back in Greensburg, Pennsylvania.
What school?
Hempfield Area Senior High School.
Oh, when did you graduate?
In 2009.
Oh, great.
It's like my cat's name and then just like a random number.
Okay. Have you had this cat for a while?
Yeah, she's my childhood pet.
Aw. And what's her name?
Her name is Jolie.
Jolie. So like a password of yours would be Jolie and then a number.
Yeah.
Like number 1?
Like my birthday.
Oh, when is your birthday?
June 12th.
Oh, nice. And what year were you born?
95.
Oh, great. So Jolie, 6, 12, 95.
Yes.
Got it.
So you mean to give my password right now? No, I cannot do that.
But we all want to know what it is so we can tell you if it's strong or not.
Oh my goodness. Let me think. Okay, one is Tel Aviv. Yeah. 468, and then Israel. It's only 3, but it's, you know, it's for me it's strong enough.
Ireland 1 2 3 4.
Gemma 1 2 3. Spelled Gemma.
Well, most of them are Italian.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Like
so
what? Like what's a good Italian password?
My grandma's name.
What's your grandma's name?
Maria.
Maria. So Maria is your password?
Oh yeah, now you know my password. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, the important thing is they learn.
Okay, so can you see that even though we emphasize on privacy, there are people, you and me, that are still neglecting on this part. Therefore, the need to boost up our protections of privacy in the life, in our personal life, or in the enterprise, there is still a huge demand for that, okay, for the cybersecurity. Now, the last thing we talk about is about smart digital. Okay, when we are moving towards smartness and we also move into digitalizations, where we have a Smart Nation digitalization program. So what are we looking at now? So life after marriage. So smart is now the new sexy word. So when you talk about smart, there are people who actually talk about smart city, smart nation, smart IoT device, smart system, smart, okay? Because they try to build in smartness in the system so that it improves productivity, it makes sound decisions, and trying to offload some of the hectic burdens on the human beings. All right, so with more and more city dripping with smart technology, it changes the way smart city manages their basic operation services. So when there are smart digital services going on, the way to operate and the way the services is being provided has changed. It's no longer the traditional way that you and me has been exposed to in the past. All right. So for instance, if you look into smart building, okay, where they use technology to control wide variety of variables within their environment, with the purpose to have providing more comfort and contributing to the health and productive of human beings working. All right. So they use various kind of sensor like light sensor, temperature sensor, air quality sensor, security cameras, elevators. Okay, they even monitor elevators, access control. Okay, they use what we know as a building automation system. They help to analyze and even do predictions. They use AI, machine learning to predict and run diagnostics. Okay, so all these automate the whole process and they monitor many variables in real time. All right, so the whole thing is about real time. Now we talk about smart cities. Okay, in 2019, CES also concluded an entire area devoted to smart cities. People are now trying to get into smart city to elevate the ranking of the country and also to improve the living standards of human beings. Okay, so what smart cities? So in these, they aim at improving transportations by using sensor to evaluate traffic flows. So now you see traffic lights, traffic flow moving from one point to another point, and they actually use it to control the traffic sickness, okay, based on the basis of some measurements. So they need to measure it and then they control it. So what happens is that they are automating lightings, okay, through light sensors, measuring temperatures. So basically all this, what they have in the smart cities, there are networks of cameras everywhere. They control the traffic light lightings, they gather informations, and they actually apply machine learning to analyze the data in order to efficiently automate a related service. So you can see that service and the operation are now intertwined, and that's how they affect you and me in the daily life. So if you look into this, we have a smart city that cover industry, security, retail, society, healthcare, home, energy, mobility. So everything in our life are actually intertwined and being affected, okay? How about attacks on smart critical infrastructure or smart infrastructures? So we have smart cities, we have a smart nation, we have smart program, this and that. But how about smart infrastructures? And that's been abused and exploited by cyber attackers. So UN estimated that 2050, 2/3 of the global population will be living in cities, okay, up from the just half currently. Okay, so this was published in 8th of January 2020. And through greater connectivity comes with greater risk. Why? Because when you connect more, just now earlier you've seen the digital ecosystem that we are living in. With more and more connectivity, more and more connection, we have more data, we actually have more attack vectors, more attack surface. All right, so that increases the risk. So can you imagine an attack against a electricity grid, knock out the power of an extended period, resulting in business? So people can actually launch attack on the electricity grid, or we call it power grid. In another example, if you look at IoT sensors, so we have IoT sensors everywhere. So IoT sensor is being used to notify refuse collectors. So what happened? They need to pick up the waste, all right? But if the IoT sensor are being compromised by a cyber attacker and such information doesn't reach the collectors, what happens? Okay, the rubbish will be piled up for weeks and then there'll be a public health issues. So that's another part of the smart initialization, malware. Although systems used by smart infrastructure do not browse the web or open email, they still need to be protected against malware. Okay, because it gives a cyber criminal access to critical information to cause damage to hardware. So earlier on, we talked about, there's a question from the audience that asks about whether I'm studying cybersecurity in hardware. So how is it applicable to me? Example, this is a very practical example that's affecting people who are doing cybersecurity in hardware. Hardware is also being affected by malware. So if you design a hardware, make sure you actually have cybersecurity protection mechanism. You do not allow malware to infiltrate into your hardware easily. That's where people actually provide keys using hardwares. They're actually using hardware as one of the way to do additional authentications rather than using software. Example, we talk about, I believe someone or people may have been exposed previously, WannaCry. I think a lot of people may have been affected by WannaCry previously. So what's WannaCry? It's a ransomware. Ransomware is part of a malware. So it's actually a worm that spread rapidly, but most important thing, it encrypts the files on your PC, making that impossible for user to access. And yet they demand you a ransom payment in terms of Bitcoin if you want to decrypt them, all right? So this is an example. So if people has been hit by WannaCry, this page is always very familiar to them. You will be exposed to this. They'll say, oops, your file has been encrypted. You are required to pay Bitcoins to me. All right, do you see the Bitcoin send $300 worth of Bitcoin to this address? Do you see that? So there's something that you're being asked to do it. So this is called ransomware. Impact of WannaCry, it affected so many places, affected more than 220,000 people, affected countries, 150 countries and above, and ransom per system is 300 USD, all right? Impact of WannaCry, can you see the blue dots? So these are where it affected different countries. Train station is also affected. Can you see? Critical infrastructure is affected. Hospital, we need hospital to save people, but hospital is also affected by ransomware, even though they do not browse it, but they are being affected. Retail is being affected. So can you imagine how impactful is malware, ransomware affecting smart critical infrastructures? So this is an example of impact of critical infrastructure that's been attacked over the years. If you look into 2010, there are Stuxnet that affect Iranian nuclear programs. 2013, we have Australia's largest satellite company bankruptcy that's been affected. New York dam floodgate compromise. Okay, 2014, we have a hospital drug infusion pump being hacked. 2014, traffic light has been hacked in the US. 2015, German steel has been destroyed. They actually destroyed, okay, the steel mill furnace. Car transmission and brake control compromised. Ukraine power grid, they actually switch off the power grid during the winter time where the power is badly needed to generate heat, okay, for many of the family members. 2017, pharmaceutical, MERS was being affected, production shut down by ransomware, MERS shipping global shutdown. 2018, Triton's malware designed to compromise safety. So this was hitting Saudi Arabia. And 2019, global aluminum producer shut down by ransomware. So these are various kind of impact on critical infrastructures, and it is real. And we need actually cybersecurity professionals to be focusing on OT. This is what we know as operational technologies. Engineers who are in the critical infrastructures, typically the field that they're exposed to are called operational technology. And we need to build cybersecurity into OT. So this is an example to show you of how people actually launch attack on power grid. So this was done by DHS, Department of Homeland Security from the US, to demonstrate how vulnerable critical infrastructures can be for the power grid. And it was recorded by CNN. Okay, so what happened is that this is called reverse power attack. So generators are being used to generate electricity for consumption, but instead of generating it and use it to use by the load, to use it to be consumed by devices, they actually pump the electricity or the power back to the generator. So this is what we know as reverse power, and as a result, the generator actually get damaged. So these are one of the attack on critical infrastructures. So we talk about ransomware. And in actual fact, something to joke about is there are actually ransomware as a service. So in the dark web, there are people offering ransomware as a service. You can look on the right-hand side. They even ask you to first-time login. And if you do not know how to log in and how to use the service and platform, there are actually a translation guideline that help you to understand the platform better. If you want to operate the ransomware, which are your targets, how you want to actually launch attack. So ransomware has become very proliferating in the market, in the dark web area. So now if you ask yourself, if there's a business that I want to consider, that I want to prosper in cybersecurity, what should it be? Okay. So if you answer yourself that it should be providing ransomware, then you're wrong. It should be providing a service to counter-react ransomware. All right. Okay, so this will be the part where a lot of people has been asking at the beginning of the presentations. So now I will get more into what are the qualifications, what are the field that you can come into, all right, in the cybersecurity field. So For instance, what must I do to be in a cybersecurity field? So these are some of the things that, to be very frank, if you want to excel in this field, you must look into ability and desire to learn continuously. It's just like doctor. Every day we have about, on average, 50 vulnerabilities being detected. Every 6 months, there are new technology, new invention being released in the market. So these are uphill kind of skill set that you must continue to learn. So you must always be have the ability and desire to learn continuously, because new vulnerability, new technology, you must always learn quicker before the cyber attacker use it and use it in the reverse way to launch attack on the innocents. A creative and curious mind. Attack often happens when they are undetected and go unnoticed. What happens is that when you see an anomalies, even a mouse spike in the anomalies, it should actually bring to your attention for you to investigate. Do not think that a small spike in the anomaly doesn't mean anything. It's normally most of the time getting undetected. Those anomalies are the one to lead into the big case. Willing to collaborate. Cybersecurity is too huge a field to tackle alone. So for example, if you're working in an organization, do not think that I want to learn all the cybersecurity skill set. Yes, you can. Nobody is stopping you. But because cybersecurity field itself is too huge, you need a team of different competency. People in risk, people in penetration testing, people in red team, people in forensic, okay, of various teams, so that they actually can make up the whole things to work together in solving the problem. Acceptance of anti-social hours. So the best time to attack is always when people are asleep. So you do not be alarmed that there will be a time where there'll be a time where people are sleeping. It's a time where people find that the system is being attacked, because when people are around, normally they don't launch attack. And it's only when during the quiet time that people start to launch attack. Being analytical and alert. Okay, best to be active and get into thinking than to wait and see. Okay, always be active. Do not wait and see. Okay, so which field is good for me? Okay, so these are some of the broad field that if you are looking at. Let me go through one by one. Governance, risk, and control. If you are looking into governance, meaning providing policy, looking into risk assessment, looking into providing control mechanism at the, for instance, at the administration level, like for instance, providing baseline, what is the procedures, what is the security design that I must give to the organization. Then these are the areas that will fit you very well. Okay. And of course, you might have to go through, you might have to build up from ground up, meaning you might have to get decent technical skills, technical skill set at the breadth level, knowing every different part of the domain before you actually can focus in your governance and risk control. So there are people who in the audit, for example, might want to go into this part as well. So there are people who do audit in cybersecurity field, excuse me, and people who look into risk assessment for cybersecurity, or even risk for enterprise organization. Okay, for people who like to do hands-on, very hands-on kind of thing, then you can look into something called VAPT, vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. So what are vulnerability assessment and penetration testing? So earlier on, there's a question that's on the ground that people ask about OSCP. So OSCP is one of the courses that's being provided for penetration testing. So there are a large few of people who actually get into penetration testing. So what happened is that in many organizations, they either has their internal teams or they outsource the service to external team. What they want to do vulnerability assessment, meaning they want the team to find out how vulnerable are the system. So the team are supposed to do vulnerability assessment to find out particular holes, whether what are the loopholes, and these loopholes, how can you patch them, or how can you resolve them to make them secure. And then after that, you found out this vulnerability, people also want to do penetration testing, meaning assuming that everything has, no vulnerability has been detected, I have a well-defined defense mechanism. But who can prove and show that? Someone need to prove it that, okay, whatever you say, I trust it. But how can you trust it? Through penetration testing. So that's where you can get your internal team, or you can outsource the service to external team, where they provide you services. There can be black box testing, or white box testing, or even gray box testing. So Black box testing is assuming that I do not know the internal mechanism. I go all the way in to penetrate your system as if like I am a bad guy, all right? Even though you're a good guy, but they will assume that you're a bad guy. You know nothing about it, and you try all ways of means to get your information to penetrate the system. If you're looking into wide penetration testing, that's where the organization will offer all the internal information to you, and then to let you do penetration testing. That will shorten the time that you need to test. Gray box is in between. So if you're into this kind of whacking, hacking, or very hands-on into all the bits and pieces of the host, how vulnerable they are, this is the area for you, all right? So you need to go through a penetration testing course. That is something that's correct. Next one is called security operations. So there'll be people who like to work, shift work, people who like to be in the operations where they sit there and with many of the TVs, with all many of the systems that are doing all the reportings of anomaly being detected and then doing analysis. And the security specialists will keep on doing analysis and reports. So these are what meaning by security operation. You look after the entire security posture and status of your organization. But in the event that you work in a SOC, meaning there'll be organizations who want to outsource their security operation to external parties. So in that case, you might be looking after multiple companies, their security posture, their security ranking, security status. So that's where security operation come to pictures. You need to ensure that the security of all these companies are well protected. Next field, forensic investigation. So this is a field where it demands a lot of patience. Okay, so what is forensic investigations? In the event that there's a compromise in the system, all right, you want to find where are the loopholes, how does the cyber attacker comes in, what are the steps they use to penetrate into the systems, where are the loopholes, where is the entry point, okay, we call POE, point of entry. That's where you need to get in forensic investigations. Okay, there are forensic investigator. These are also specialized courses. You need to go through forensic courses, and forensic courses can be in the IT, can be in the OT, or can be in the IoT, can be in the mobile. All right, so there are different forensic skill set you need to build up, and you might need to specialize. So what happened is that these investigators will actually look into tons of logs, firewall logs, switch logs, host logs, system logs, okay, and make all the detailed markings of all the suspected area, and then identify IOC, okay, indicator of compromise, and find out where and what is all the things that you need to answer, okay, about how the cyber attacker happens. Next one is incident response. So incident response is where something happens to your organization, but you don't know whether are they real or are they fake, okay? So you need to trigger something called incident response procedures, where you need to trigger the teams to investigate. So incident response comes with certain elements of forensic investigations. Okay, it also comes with a little bit of security operations. So what happens is that when something happens, you need to respond. So what are the incident response drills? So if you talk about incident response, you may have to work closely with the governance, risk and control, because why? They will tell you what is a drill, what is the procedures, what are the steps that you must do during an incident, and then you run through the drills. Okay, so this is during the so this is a time where it's during what we call during a wartime, where something happens, you have to conduct the incident response procedures. But during peace times, you may have to do incident response drills. So you may have to work with various senior entities or various stakeholders in running drills. So what happens is that they will tell you, oh, assuming that we're under attack by such and such attack vectors, what must we do? What must the organization do? So that's where they try to run through various kind of drill that has been preset by committees, and you run through the drills to make sure that everybody are in line. So this is sometimes involved, can be a real drills where it involves a system being switched over to your data center, or it can be something called tabletop exercise. All right. So I have some questions that's on the ground. That is, I'm interested in governance, risk and control. How do I start as a mid-career professional from financial industry? Okay, so I'll answer that later in the next slides. Okay, threat analysis. So what is threat analysis? Someone launched an attack on me. I need to understand what is this threat. So it could be people in the red. What do you mean by red? Red are people who are presumed to be attacking you. Okay. Penetration testing are typical people who try to find as many vulnerabilities as possible. But red team is someone who look into what we know as strategic goal. They look for a very specific goal that they want to achieve in destroying the entity or the targets, and they move all the way to attack. So on another angle, that is, we face threat every day. So they are what we know as threat modeling, threat models. We need to understand what are the various kind of threat that is being faced by the organization on a daily basis. And you need to do analysis. So that is threat modeling part of it. But in threat analysis, when people launch attack, you must analyze to see how they actually can be applied to your organizations. So when someone do such an attack, for instance, APT, Advanced Persistent Threat. So when such an APT attack on my organization, I must make an analysis of it, and then how exposed, what is the risk level that my organization is being exposed to? And in such a situation, how do I defend myself against such a threat if it happens? So you need to make an analysis on all these threat analysis. So actually, if you want to be in the analysis field, you have to be on the, it's preferably for you to be on the attacking side so that you are able to appreciate how the threat can happen and how it could penetrate into your system. All right. Then the last one is what we name by security design and engineering. So there are in specific field of products and services. So what happens is that a lot of products are being designed. So in the past, people design a product not because of the needs of security, but based on the needs of the customer, based on the need of business requirement. But there's a recent change now that people are now talking about cybersecurity across the entire platform, across all the verticals in the organizations. So now with that in mind, cyber risk, cyber attack vectors, cyber attack surface is everywhere. So in face of this, how do you design your product to face the security? So this is a discipline where you must know how to design your products or design your services to face the security threat on a long-term basis. And you need to design your products. So your products must be able to withstand cyber attacks in immediate to mid-terms. So how do you do that? So that's where you need to improve the security, improve the engineering and the design of your products so that they are better able to withstand cyber attacks. So one good areas in this field is where people talk about secure programming, meaning they want to make sure that you program your product properly. Or when you design your system network, nowadays there are people talk about zero trust, meaning I assume that I don't trust you. Based on no trust, how do you establish your trust? Meaning your system and my system, how do you establish the trust from your system A to B with me so that I can start to trust you gradually over the authentication and over the credential that is sent to me. Okay, so these are various kind of broad level of area for security if you're looking at. So yes, question coming in. I know entry level security for someone who do not. Okay, so there are quite some questions. So these are some of the hot security certification that's happening in the market. But this is a non-exhaustive list. Okay, I must say that these are non-exhaustive lists. So first of all, typically there are two entry levels. If you are looking into entry levels into cybersecurity, meaning you have achieved your diploma, or you have achieved your bachelor, or even you have done your PhD, masters, but you have not yet stepped into cyber. Okay, but you intend to get into cyber. That is the time the entry level is best to get broad stroke of your cybersecurity information, or basically you must learn the breadth of all the cybersecurity. So it's good for you to start work in organization that provides you with decent cybersecurity exposure on the broad stroke. Okay, you learn all the domain first. Okay, once you learn the domain for a specific period of time, when you feel that you are sufficiently well equipped, you may want to choose the field for you to focus on. So you can choose yourself to be in the ethical hacking, penetration hacking, or you want to do risk assessment, you want to do auditors, or you want to be managing projects, okay, so that's where you can manage cybersecurity projects, or you want to be advanced in all the topics where it move you towards CISO, Chief Information Security Officer. You may want to go into CISSP, or in general, I want to move into network. Okay, then that's where you may want to look into some of the Cisco network certification or CompTIA security. If you want to do the forensic, CHFI is something to look into. If you want to be a pen tester, OSCP is something to look at. Okay, so for entry level, if you have a good discipline, okay, good discipline, I would say not so much as good discipline, but relevant discipline. Sorry for saying that. Relevant discipline, that is you have computing in general. In general mean any of the computing related part, or you have engineering related part, or you are a math student, you have physics related. So these are typically areas where people have done some good start in programming. So if you ask me whether do you need to, is it mandatory for you to have programming experience? The answer is no, but it's good for you because it helps you to understand something called algorithmic thinking, because there are systems that require to program. For instance, if you are learning into machine learning, it's good for you to have a elementary understanding of programming. So any programming language, as long as you are able to program and it makes you think logically into how to set your program to achieve the deliverable that you want. So with that initial discipline, that you can get into all these various cybersecurity. So the next one that we talk about will be if you are in the mid-level, okay? So if you are doing a mid-career switch, it is same. You might want, because of the mid-career switch, you might think of trying to expedite into gaining your knowledge. So at that time, my personal recommendation to you is that you might want to try to beef yourself up with more courses, certification courses or skill future courses, where they can actually help you in specific areas. So for that part of it, you might quickly do the elementary level course followed by the specialized courses, so that you can actually branch into it quickly if you're doing a mid-career switch. So for instance, if you, after you're done your elementary courses, for instance, they are offered by various organizations, including SG Innovate, you may quickly want to branch into CISSP. So there are certain certifications require you to have prior job experience. So for instance, CISSP, if you are not in the, you do not have any bachelor degree, they require you to have 5 years experience. If you have, you can have 4 years experience. So there are various certifications that you need to get into, but a good start is to get quickly into, to get an elementary understanding of all the different certifications. So a good start will be on, if you are looking into, so for a good start, you might not want to get into technical certification for a good start. Instead you understand the network. So understanding network security is something that's very beneficial. IT security. So people are now looking into, for instance, the ITIL. You can even do into some of the other courses like SG Innovate having this PISC or PESS. Only when you have achieved all your fundamental network security, your security common modules, then you branch into further deeper module into hacking, forensic, manager, auditors, okay, various kind of skill set that you want to achieve. So that will be better for you if you're looking into mid-career switch in this situation. So any more questions for people who want to ask me? Any more questions? You may want to type your inquiry in the chat group.
All right, I'm afraid we're running a little behind on time,
Sure.
so we'll probably have to wrap up this session.
All right, sure.
Yeah, thanks, Ivan, for the informative session. I especially enjoyed that video shared where people unwittingly shared their passwords on that Jim Nicol show. Yeah, and I'm sure many of us learned a lot more about how security plays a huge part in our lives. So hopefully with the sharing, more people will be keen to explore a career in cybersecurity to help make the world a safer place. And to the participants, we've come to the end of this workshop. Before you leave, please help to fill out the short survey. I believe the link should be available in the chat box. So coming up next in the conference, we have our Startups and Partners Showcase. So do stick around to hear more about some of the hottest roles that are in demand. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next segment.